This is Pivot Perspectives with Chris O'Byrne, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on their road to success, and get exclusive access on how to implement their success into your life and business. Pivot Perspectives is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Chris O'Byrne.
Welcome to the show, Max. I am very glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
What I'd like to start out with is kind of going back a little ways. Can you choose a story from your childhood that you think was instrumental in developing you into who you are today?
Well, my dad was by far my greatest mentor, and I grew up the son of a sharecropper, following two gray mules in the early days, and finally we were able to get a tractor. Of course, Dad drove the tractor. Well, I finally was able to get rid of the two gray mules, and Dad let me drive the tractor. So here's one of the funny stories. So I'm out in the field, dusty, and the tractor stops. So I tried everything. I cleaned the carburetor, I had spark plugs, I did everything I thought you could do to get this thing started. No luck. And I look out across, and here comes a beat up old pickup truck bouncing across this dusty field. And I said, this can't turn out very well for me. So Dad gets there and he said, now what the hell's wrong? And I said, Dad, I don't know. I've tried everything. I can't get it started. He said, get out of the way. Sure enough, about 5 minutes later, Chris, the tractor is running fine. He turns to me and he said, I want you to remember this. And I said, yes, sir. What is it? He said, stay away from machinery. You don't know anything about wheelbarrows. So, and he goes, it wasn't long after that, Dad said, and I think this is important, Dad said, look, you really don't like this farm, do you? And I said, yeah, I love the farm. I just don't like the farm work. And he said, you know, if you don't like something you're doing, you're probably not going to be very good at it. And I thought that's a great story. And he said, so I'm going to let you go. And I said, that means for sure. And he said, you're out of here. Go to town and get yourself a job. And so I did. And so it was a great lesson. Dad was fully supportive of my interest, whether it be extracurricular activities that he supported, or schoolwork, or whatever, a job. And so I learned a really valuable lesson, lots of valuable lessons from him, which I explore a few of those in the book, and why it's been so important to me to think back to what he said. One other quick one, Chris. Dad was a recession era baby from the old days, Depression era, and tight. Man, he had every dime. People said he had the first dollar he ever made. And so one day in his, I guess, late 70s, probably early 80s, he said to me, son, if there's something you want to do, you probably ought to go ahead and do it. And my mouth dropped open, and I said, you spend money for something fun? And he said, yeah. He said, it's not because you won't be able to later, it's because you won't want to. And so that's been another valuable lesson. If there's something that comes up you think you kind of want to do, and it's not going to destroy your financial well-being, then maybe you should go ahead and do it. I'm 81 years old now, Chris, and I got to tell you, he was right. The things that I can go do, money's not really a major problem anymore. I just don't really want to. And so I wish there's some things I had done earlier on. So that was a very valuable lesson in my early days. Yeah.
So then before we jump into talking about your business, let's talk about your military career. How long after that happened did you go into the military, and share with us some of the stories of what you did there? Because it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's amazing that's the part I've been thankful for so many years. Those early days, I think I finally was able to go to town and get a job. I was probably 13 years old. And so I got blessed and got an appointment to the Air Force Academy when I was 17. So it's, 4 years later that I went off to the Air Force Academy. And depending on your attitude, the timing was either good or not so good. Went to the academy, graduated, went to pilot training, and went to war. bing, bing, bing. I volunteered to go over and rescue helicopters. My assignment was principally into Laos, but there was no war in Laos in 1967 and 68. We hadn't told the world that we were there, and so I flew and Air America, and we lived with mountain yard tribes, but not all the time. I got to go back to Thailand and from time to time, and we were 70 miles from Hanoi. So when the fighters, which we couldn't keep up with, of course, they left from Thailand and headed into North Vietnam on their missions. So we would join up with them at the border, Laotian, North Vietnam border, and then we'd follow them in. And when they got shot down, we'd try to pick them up and bring them home. So the mission was the best in the world. It didn't matter what kind of war it was. That others may live was our mission. And we went in to bring these guys back home to have a life, a career, families, children. And so there were really about three options. One, death. They were shot down when they ejected or crashed. The second was the capture and probably the Hanoi. And the third was me, the Jolly Green Rescue Organization. So we were pretty popular. And we got 80% of the people shot down in the war. And our organization, the Air Rescue Organization, was the most decorated organization in the entire war of all organizations. So it was very, very rewarding. In fact, I got a fellow that sent me a case of scotch every Christmas for years for bringing him home. So I got shot down twice myself. People said, "What is it like to get shot down?" It was the pits. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, what did you expect me to say? Oh, it's wonderful. I had a great time. No, it wasn't fun, but I made it home both times.
So then what was that transition like to the business world? What was the transition like, and what inspired you to start your business?
The transition was not while I was still in Vietnam, I got selected by the Air Force to go back to graduate school and in the field that I wanted, which was management. And when I got home, I flew down to Randolph Air Force Base, personnel training, and was told that I was going to Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio. The University of Ohio is not in Dayton. So I don't want to go. And I said, "What's in Dayton, Ohio?" And said, "The Air Force School of Logistics Management." Supply officer school? I'm a pilot. I don't want to become a supply officer. Anyway, so they said, "Well, we've had these problems and we don't think you can get in." I said, "I was on the dean's list every semester but one. I mean, I think I can get in." So I went home, dejected, depressed, and applied to all of those graduate school, business and law, and got accepted to all of them. So I went back and said, "Hey, Sergeant, I got good news." Review the bidding, and look, I got accepted. And he said, "Captain, I don't think you understand. You're going to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Air Force School of Logistics Management, and you can't bluff the Air Force." So 10 days before registration at Stanford, I resigned my commission, and I told this sergeant, "I'm going to Stanford either in a blue suit or blue jeans, and right now I don't give a royal rat's." And so off I went. So that's the transition. And I loved Stanford. I loved the biz school. I loved everything about it. I thought real estate was a wide open field with probably low entry level that I could get into. And that was my plan. And I got a job when I graduated working for a fellow that a lot of people claimed was the world's richest man at the time. And I managed all of his real estate worldwide. So that was a transition into the real world of business and how it happened. You're going to have to put up with me, Chris, or just interrupt. It won't bother me. I am grossly, overly verbose. I'm a storyteller.
No, the stories are what make this fascinating. I love the stories. So please don't hold back.
Okay.
So
well, just give me one of these when it's time to go, will you?
You got it. So then tell me about your current business. What is it that's unique and valuable about that?
My current business is trying to help people that are failing in their business, or people that want to move into having their own business. You know, after this mess with COVID, 30-something% of the people that were interviewed said they didn't want to go back to work. They wanted to start their own business. And so there's a huge market out there, I guess you'd say, for the entrepreneurial character. And I have said, if you don't just absolutely, positively have to be an entrepreneur, don't do it. It's tough. It's really tough. Then the failure rate is high. So for those people that are having trouble, Jack Canfield suggested I write this book about bouncing back from failure and grit and determination and resilience and all those sorts of things. But do it, Max, by telling stories. So the book is about all my failures. And I wrote humorous stories. Two of the things I learned in business, really important. One, if you're promoting anything, if you're selling anything, number one, your promotional material must be entertaining, or you're going to lose it. Secondly, there has to be a call for action, or else people that, you know, so if you got a great product and you don't tell the world about it, it's probably not going to do very well. And if you don't ask them to do something, i.e. buy the product, okay, or then probably your business is going to fail. So anyway, that's why we decided to tell these humorous stories. I think they're funny. Most people do, about my failures. And there's a principle in each one of the stories about how I bounce back, or what I should have done that I didn't, or I did do that I shouldn't have. Okay. And so the purpose of my business, if you will, now, I call it an expensive hobby, by the way, trying to promote a book, but it ain't a marketing book. But the purpose is to help people be successful by not making some of the mistakes that I did. I retired from my business in 2017, which is 6 years ago, roughly. And I sold that company to Nestle, and had real money. That's fun. And so I said to my wife, okay, so we're going to retire now, that dream about walking the beach hand in hand. And she said, well, I'm not retiring. I'm too young to retire. I'm not going to retire. Whoa, hang on a second. So what are we going to do? And she said, there is no we. Whoa. She said, I'm going to start my own business now. And if I succeed, it'll be my success. And if I fail, it'll be my failure. And if I need your help, I'll ask you. And so she is a hair on fire entrepreneur, and she's got international businesses going. And so that's when Canfield said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, but I hate retirement. It really sucks. And he said, why don't you write this book about all your failures? You're a great storyteller. See if you can put it, you know, from here onto paper, which I didn't know I could do. I guess it turned out okay. We won lots of awards in Amazon in 4 countries and so forth. So that's kind of my business now, is trying to learn how I can get these principles, which I believe will help a lot of people, particularly the entrepreneurial. Although Canfield said, Max, don't limit your market to just entrepreneurs. There are too many great life lessons in there that can apply to other than entrepreneurs, particularly small businesses and families. So it's still, fortunately, I don't need the money. So I'm really trying to get the word out as to these principles that I hope will be very helpful to people. So that's my business, Chris. It's not really what you asked me, but you got it.
No, that's a great answer. What is the name of your book?
The Harder I Fall, the Higher I Bounce.
Nice.
And some of the friends that were kind enough to write endorsements said that really says it all, Max. You have bounced from one impossible situation to a probable situation, and somehow or another, you always just keep climbing the mountain. And so the last company, we did 1.8 billion in sales over a reasonably short period of time. So from following those 2 gray mules, old Tom and old Jack, to selling a company that did that well in the market, I guess is a story of lots of failures and a few good successes.
Yeah, I'll make sure there's a link to your book in the show notes that everybody.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Hopefully the other people that read it will appreciate it.
Oh, I think they will. So along the way in your business life, who are some of the key influences or mentors that played a significant role for you?
Well, my dad, number one. My dad had a twin brother. In fact, he had 5 brothers. One was a twin, and that brother went off to college. They lived with their dad. And my dad, I think looking back now, he was really undereducated, but really wise. I think he must have had ADD, quite honestly. He wasn't doing well in school, and so his dad told my dad when he was in the 9th or 10th grade, I guess. He said, look, obviously this book learning isn't working for you, so just quit school and come on back and work on the farm. So my dad had a 10th grade, sort of 10th grade education, but was really wise. And I tried to point out his wisdom in the book. So he was the first great mentor to me. I got time for one quick story about my dad and the lesson I learned. Okay. So dad went into he actually was in the cavalry in World War II. And because he knew something about horses and mules. Okay. And so, but he also had an additional duty. He trained the office polo ponies. You believe the officers in the army used to have polo? Well, my dad didn't know anything about polo, but he could teach the horses tricks, to rear up and lay down, and the guys would get behind the horse like they were shooting, the bad guys using the horse. Anyway, and so we always had horses. I started when I was 3 years old. I guess I had a pony. So anyway, my dad buys this new horse, and I'm going to take the horse on a Saturday and ride up to my cousin's house, which is, I don't know, a couple of miles away. And so as I leave the front yard, Dad's in the front yard, and he said, where are you going? And I said, I'm just going up to trade some comic books with my cousins. And he said, okay. So off I go, and it's a gravel road, and you have to cross this rickety old bridge to get up to my cousin's house. And I get up there, and the horse won't cross. So I thought, I'd kick him and I'd run at it, and the horse all the time. Finally, I get off. I tried to lead the horse across. Wouldn't lead. So I said, well, I guess I'm not going up to my cousins on this new horse. So I head back home, and I think, oh, God, I hope Dad's not there, because he's going to say, you let the horse beat you? What kind of horseman are you? But sure enough, I get in front yard, back home, and there he is. And he looks up at me and he said, what happened? I thought you're going up to your cousins. Now, here's the deal, Chris. I can lie or I can tell the truth. Both are bad options. Anyway, I chose to lie. So I said, oh, I don't know, Dad. I don't think maybe they haven't been to the grocery store and gotten any new comics. And so I just said, he said, horse wouldn't cross the bridge, would it? Oh, no. Okay. So, he saw right through me. Then I said, Dad, listen, I tried everything. I couldn't get the horse to cross it. So he reaches up, grabs me swings up behind me on the saddle, kicks the horse with his plow shoes in the withers, and off we go down this gravel road, going like crazy. We get to the bridge, and the horse goes, shh, won't cross. So Dad tries 2 or 3 times, won't cross. He said, get off the horse. Yes, sir. I'm happy to get off. So I get off the horse, and he tries it again. Horse won't cross the bridge. So Dad says, you see that tree branch over there? Hand it to me. Now, I don't know if he's going to use it on me or the horse. But, so I hand him the branch, and he heads across the bridge, and the horse stops. And he takes that branch, goes right between the horse's ears. The horse stumbles around a little bit. Dad runs him up to the bridge, and the horse stumbles right across the bridge. Turns around, the horse comes right back across the bridge. Dad gets off the horse. He says, get on the horse. And he hands me the branch. And I'm thinking, at least cross this bridge, because I don't want to do that. Okay. So we go up to the bridge, and I'm waving the stick so the horse can see it. The horse's ears are straight back, right? And the horse is looking more at me, or trying to, than we cross the bridge. Oh, thank God. Come on, horse, go. We got to go one more. So go back and cross the bridge. Dad doesn't say a word, just swings up behind me in the saddle, and he said, let's go home. Go back home. He swings off, And he looks up at me and he said, I expect you'll be going up to your cousin's house now, won't you? So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So here the horse and I go, man, I am sweating profusely. And I'm saying to God Almighty, please have this horse cross. Come on, horse. We got to cross the bridge. If you don't cross the bridge, we got to find another way. We can't go back home. We'll swim the creek. We'll go around it. We'll do something. So we get to the creek and I mean the bridge, and the horse goes right across. I go up to my cousin's house and they said, "Where the heck? We've been waiting on you forever." And I said, "Well, my dad was teaching me something about horsemanship." And so I stayed. Now here's the real point. Sometimes when you meet a serious obstacle in life, two things. Number one, you may need some help and you better find it. Number two, you may have to use a little pressure. Hopefully you won't have to hit anybody in the head with a branch, but you may need to be resilient, have grit, and force your way. It may take not physical punishment, but it may take some real courage to try to defeat those that you're negotiating with, or at least find a solution. Anyway, that's one of the old stories from my dad. Other mentors, I could name 10, 20. Obviously, the people at the Air Force Academy. I was lucky enough to be an administrative assistant to my congressman while I was supposed to be in high school. I wasn't. And so I went to Washington as a 17-year-old. I had a great mentor officer at the Air Force Academy that taught me great stories about you can delegate authority, but you cannot delegate responsibility. Something goes wrong in your organization, be it military, business, whatever, that you didn't even know was happening or that had happened, it's still your responsibility and you've got to fix it or settle it somehow or another. I've used that principally in all my organizations since the Air Force Academy, and I've preached it to the people that worked for me and with me to let them know that there really weren't any excuses. Hopefully there would be reasons, but it was still their responsibility. So that mentor at the Air Force Academy, Lieutenant Colonel, has really stuck with me well. I worked for an attorney who taught me a lot about how to really deal with the legal profession. That was a great mentor. And then my failures were my best mentors, okay. And a lawyer who got me through a bunch of those failures was a great mentor. And by the way, still is my attorney after, 30 years or something.
Oh, nice. Nice. So then looking back on your life,
yeah,
what would you say has been one of the most valuable lessons that you learned?
Well, the responsibility one, I guess, is probably number one on my list. You're going to need help. You can't get through life nor business without it. And therefore, two things: find people that you can trust, hopefully, that are willing to help you, either for free or for your fee. And hire for character, train for skill. If you hire people that turn out to have poor character, you're going to have nothing but troubles. And so hire for character, somebody that hard charging, high integrity, good solid character, morals, and train them. When you make a mistake, and you will, cut your losses early. Don't just try, I can fix this lady. I can fix this guy. I know I'm good at it. I can. No. You don't have time for that. Do what you can. Be generous, but cut your losses early. If you find somebody of really poor character, it's not really your job to change their character, not as an employer or as a business owner. It's going to work. So hire for character, train for skill, cut your losses early. Important lessons in business.
Very much so. So how do you know when you have found somebody of good character?
Well, the easy answer is they don't do anything dumb, okay, or stupid or illegal. or questionable from a morality point of view. So number one is it's a negative approach. Okay, this guy's doing great. Nothing's going wrong. The way you find out otherwise is you got to have controlling data. It's called walking the manufacturing floor, to put it in another way. You can't just sit up in the warehouse in your little office and watch the manufacturing floor. You need to get down there. You need to know the people, get to know them, find out about them, how they're doing. So data collection on a direct basis is important. The thing that set us apart in the last company that did so well, the $1.8 billion, was we had 400 manned locations in shopping centers in the world, and we had 800 what they call automated retail. I used to call them vending machines, right? But now it's called automated retail. So how do you control, how do you monitor, how do you train, so forth, so when training is needed? Locations where there are only 3 or maybe 4 employees, and normally only one at a time at a kiosk in the mall. Down the hallways, you see those kiosks and carts. Okay, that's what we had so many locations doing so well with a great product. We developed reporting systems, monitoring systems, so that we would know if the bank deposit that you made each night didn't match the net sales. We would know if you didn't sign out for your freight, which was legally required. We would know through our reporting. And so the situation was, do you want to create systems that they will avoid temptation? That's what we believed in. Or do you create situations where they are tempted and they do steal from it? We chose to try to remove the temptation. I don't want people to get in trouble, so we tried to remove the temptation. So these reports would come in, and if the bank deposit didn't, we would call the next morning and say, you know, here's a chance, what happened? And if somebody borrowed $5 because they needed gas money to get home and you didn't catch it, then 2 weeks later, the baby needs medicine and they borrow $100, fully intending to give it back. Yeah. But since nobody caught it, next time they thought, I might be able to get that new used car. And we had examples where people took us for a lot of money, but we caught it and we prosecuted. We felt like that was good for them, and it certainly was good for the rest of the country. Macy's is the one that taught me that. You don't do wrong at Macy's without being prosecuted. Mm-hmm. And so I think that set us apart. That led us to become the world's largest retailer in the world. And so we felt like that was the secret sauce to our being able to do that and open so many widely diverse spread geographical locations and still control. So remove the temptation. That was my system for controlling remote locations.
I like it. Thank you for that.
Sure. So
just to wrap things up, what parting wisdom do you have for people?
Oh my goodness. Number one, read the book.
Amen.
The whole idea of these stories, and there are a bunch of them with these principles, was to help people. So the parting wisdom is I tried to put what I felt was wisdom from experience into the book. Parting shot, if there's really something you want to do, whether it's business or philanthropy, which I'm a great fan, there's a book that best-selling book of all times, translated into more languages than any book ever sold. And in there it says, if you give, it will come back 10 times. In another place, it says if you give, it'll come back 100-fold. I think that's absolutely true, and I practice that. So we did it as a company. We've done it as individuals. One of the great rewards about your definition of success is that you can give back. Maybe it's money, maybe it's time, maybe it's your experience, whatever it is. Practice that. You won't always be able to spend money, but giving away 80% of everything I've made, I guess, something like that. Camp for kids that are terminally ill, a building at the Air Force Academy, which is the Center for Character and Leadership Development, and on and on. So words of wisdom, it's not all about yourself. It's about taking the blessings that you have and sharing them with those that haven't been so blessed or so lucky or have been in some form had misfortune occur. I guess that's the best I would suggest. The other is you weren't put here to me because it was going to be easy. So just grab your britches and pull them up and bore into this thing. You're going to fail. It's part of the deal. Some of us think we were put here to learn, okay, before we went on. And you just got to have grit. There's a great book by Angela Duckworth about grit. And it's called Grit. But that's it. Just grin and bear it and push on. And when you fall, that's painful. I mean, Chris, it hurts to fail. But climbing that mountain is so much fun. So just get up, dust yourself off, and start back up. Create a new path up the mountains, making it easier for folks behind you to crawl up that same path to whatever their version of success is. I guess that would be it. Enjoy life, but just tackle it with determination, because it ain't always easy, right? Chris, thank you. Thank you for the time. So it's been fun.
Really appreciate you coming out.
Hope I haven't bored you to death.
No, not a bit. That was very entertaining and very enlightening. A lot of words of wisdom. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thank you.
That's my pleasure. It's my honor to be with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Pivot Perspectives with your host, Chris O'Byrne. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advice on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.